last December, I made a video about Starfield and basically said Starfield's a really good game, and I'm sick of people saying that it's not. And that got a response. It's easily the closest I've ever come to not making more videos, if I have to be honest. Kind of in hindsight, the reaction was pretty vitriolic, and it was interesting. And I want to talk about that and how things, I think, led to that and where things are now, because the big May Starfield patch is out. I've played quite a bit of it, and I want to talk about that and kind of talk about where Starfield stands for me today and how we got here. So when I made that video in December, it's kind of easy to forget the kind of short-term reaction to Starfield. It's interesting because when it came out, the Metacritic score is and still and was obviously pretty good. I think it's 83 or 84, which is solid. Obviously, a lot of people were expecting something a bit more. I think maybe that was a bit misleading. To this day, I still think people were expecting a little too much out of a Bethesda game, especially the first entry of a brand new IP. But that's neither here nor there. That argument isn't going to go far with most people. But where I landed was that it really hit me really well. I really liked Starfield. I think I got lucky in that I hit things in an order mostly by accident or by happenstance that worked out really well for me. It can't be spoilers at this point, but basically the game in large part is centered around a new game plus mode where you play through the story, you play the game, and you get to the end of the story and you have an option to continue that playthrough or step into a brand new new game plus playthrough with some unique situations in it. And it's part of the story. It's part of your arc. So when I played Starfield, I played through to the end, didn't go through, and then went and finished the rest of the content I hadn't played yet. Well, for me, I was very lucky that before I hit that point, I had done the UC Vanguard quest, obviously the main quest, and I had done the pirate, the Crimson Fleet quest line as well. And those three things, as well as some of the side stuff I just ran into, gave me a really good impression of the game. Now, for full clarity, after I did that, I played like Neon City, that entire area, the Ryujin quest line, and so on, and the Freestar Collective and all that, which I found those quest lines and locations to just be really weak. I did not like that part of the game. But my impression was the things I did play. And I was high on it, and I still am. And so, I made that video, and I was probably a little antagonistic. I was definitely baiting people a little bit, because the first 10 seconds of the video, I basically tell people that if they think the game is bad, they're wrong. And I think most people paused the video, made very colorful comments, and then didn't finish. Because if you actually watch the video, I talk about a lot of the negatives of the game as well, but how I still like it despite that. So fast forward, we are 4 minutes into this video, and we are, 6 months later or whatever here. And there's been little patches to the game. For full clarity, I played about 200 hours of Starfield in the first 5 weeks, 6 weeks, I think. And then I basically haven't touched it since. I went back, I finished all of the major content I was aware of. And then I kind of just stopped. Other stuff came out. I got really into Baldur's Gate 3 again afterwards. And then I've been playing all kinds of stuff since, including Fallout 4. You can check out a whole video I made about that and how Fallout 4 and playing it again in 2024 has kind of molded my ideas of Starfield, not in a bad way, but in a way that's made me think more about what Starfield is and was. So now we're in May of 2024, and a big patch just came out. Now, this isn't the DLC, the Shattered Spaces. This was what amounted to a really big quality of life patch. They've had little patches here and there, mostly to fix things with some quality of life, but this was a big, meaty update. And I'm back. I actually deleted my 200-hour playthrough. I initially had intended for that to be my Shattered Spaces playthrough, where I was just going to tack that on. And I decided that I had been away from the game long enough and that maybe I wanted some fresh eyes on the whole experience of playing through the game. Because honestly, I was kind of lost in my previous playthrough. I couldn't really remember what my directive was at that point. And so started a new playthrough. I don't want to say how far in, probably 20, 25 hours in, and getting through the story, doing some of the stuff. And it's still, it's still not perfect. The thing I will say, and I'll throw this out here, maybe this will be a clip. This patch isn't the thing that will take people who went into the game lukewarm and didn't like it and make them fans. What this patch from May will do will take people who were hopeful and got in, and there was a little too much friction. There was a little too much too many bugs, too many kind of UI problems. The maps and kind of the smaller things like that. And maybe that turned them off. This patch is for people like that, who wanted to like it, but just didn't. And for people who did like it, but dropped off. I think it's for those people too. This isn't fixing every problem with Starfield. Every problem with Starfield, at least the ones that people are the most vocal about, probably can't be fixed. Honestly, there's just things that they can't probably fix permanently. The some of the animation stuff, the tech and stuff being pretty outdated. The creation engine is, parts of it are very impressive in Starfield. Other parts of it are less so because, some stuff definitely feels old, 10 years old, right? But I think where I kind of land and where I go back to is if you are willing to let this game be a good experience, I would say a cozy experience. Starfield is a oddly cozy game. So when you think of cozy games, you're often thinking of farming games like Stardew Valley and things like that, or like builder games or just kind of slower paced things, right? Maybe not games about space exploration and shooting aliens and other humans. But I think what still strikes me so much about Starfield is you do spend a lot of time, if you choose, just exploring space stations and finding loot and finding resources and trying to find your way into locked places, or, scanning plants and checking out new planets and landmarks and things like that. And when you're doing those things, it's always so surprising to me just how cozy the game is. The game has a beautiful soundtrack, just a really, really great soundtrack. The graphics are really hit or miss, just to be totally frank. It's so strange that you can find a model of an orange that looks real, that is photorealistic. You can find models in this game, especially on high graphic settings, that just of things that look real. Like the sandwiches in this game look real. It's very odd because then you'll turn to some NPC and they look okay, but then they'll talk and their animations are kind of weird. The rigging on the models just seems kind of janky. But the voice acting is fine. It's in good in some places. So graphically it's a weird game, but so much of it looks really, really good, especially static. But what is even better is the lighting in this game. I've even found this in my Fallout 4 playthrough that the creation engine does volumetric lighting and real-time lighting and stuff just so well. And it can still be janky. Obviously it's not perfect, but man, when it looks good, it looks good. There's so many moments where you'll be exploring a moon or a planet and you'll just look up and there will just be this beautiful, just you can see the Milky Way, and you get just all the stars, and there might even be other planets or a sun or a moon in view, and even the vista still looks pretty good, even though the procedural generation stuff doesn't always look amazing. You just get those vibes so often. It reminds me so much of Mass Effect 1, when you go to like the uncharted worlds and stuff, and where those are literally the definition of just plain nothing planets. You could still find yourself on a planet where the lighting is just right, the skybox is just right, and it's still like, it still just has this like feeling of like awe almost, right? And you get that in Starfield if you let yourself do it. Now, for a bunch of the things that did get fixed in this patch, for console, it was huge. For Xbox Series X, you got you got two separate things you could pick. You can now pick 30 FPS or 60 FPS, and separately you can pick a focus on visuals or performance. And this is interesting because in theory, you could set 60 FPS visual, and it will try, right? It can't. From what I saw from Digital Foundry, it will hang around 40, maybe 50 FPS at the 60 FPS visual setting. So you're getting pretty much full 4K, and it's trying to do 60, and it struggles, right? Obviously, with 30 FPS and visual, it does pretty well with keeping a solid 4K image. And then with the 60 FPS performance, I believe it was getting something between 2K and 4K, and hitting 60 FPS pretty consistently, other than the main city, New Atlantis, as well as I believe the Freestar Collective city, Aquila. Those two places, even in my own experience, you could tell the frames are dropping to like probably 40, 50. And it's a little off-putting, but everywhere else, spaceships, space stations, other planets, running around blank, empty places, running around giant bases, underground things, caverns. Everywhere else on my Series X, it ran a smooth 60 FPS, and it was really cool. And the visuals still look really good. Like it's not like they're doing 60 FPS and it's like 720p, right? I don't know what exactly it is. Like I said before, probably closer to 2K most of the time, but it looks great. And when you think about after Starfield came out, the big things people were hung up on, this May patch really did address most of those things. And so I really truly believe that the game now is in the state it should have been when it released. I still, to this day, and obviously I have the benefit of hindsight. I have the benefit of not actually having to be the person who would deal with this reaction. For how crowded 2023 was, for the state that Starfield released in, and seeing where it is 6 months later after release, they should have delayed it one more year. At least 6 months, at least to now, the beginning of summer. That wasn't going to happen. They needed to get that game out. I get likely the politics and the business around it, but man, if the game came out the way it is today, if it came out today, or if it came out the way it is now back then, people would still have their gripes. That they would still have the things that are just native to Bethesda, the things that do just feel dated about the game. But I truly do believe it would have been received way better in the long term. Again, it was received well, but then that conversation got going, and I don't necessarily think the conversation about Starfield as time went on was completely real. I really do think there was kind of this kind of like, a few people started talking bad about it. And then I watched multiple podcasters who really loved the game and played it before it came out and played a lot of it. But then once a couple of the people on their podcast, whatever, people in their community really started chirping about them not liking it, whether they were even playing it or not. There's a lot of people talking about it who haven't even played it. And you really saw people really kind of, in my opinion, surrender to a lot of the voices chirping about it, just because out of peer pressure. And I'm not saying that absolves Starfield of having any problems. It obviously is a flawed game in a lot of ways, but it was really weird seeing people seemingly just from the zeitgeist around the game a month or two after it came out, just kind of, just flip a switch and change their opinion on it, even though they seemed so sure before. And I think that's kind of strange. And I don't know if that could have been prevented. I genuinely do believe there is some weird vibes around Bethesda being a Xbox studio now, and a bias against Xbox amongst some, gamers and some communities and some journalists and content creators. I used to push back on that idea, and I don't anymore. I think it's so obvious, but it's not the full excuse, right? It's not the full reason behind everything. I just, I do want to wrap this up. We're 15 minutes in ish, and I guess what I want to finalize and say is that I think Starfield has been a good game since day one. I think it was a very, very flawed game that had a lot of missteps that didn't need to happen when it came out. I think that this most recent patch has taken care of most of the issues that most people had with the game. There's some people who are just never going to like it, and that's fine. That's okay. No one's going to like everything. I don't like The Witcher 3. Sorry. I don't think it's a very good game. I can't stand the characters. The combat sucks. I just can't get into it. And I'm wrong, right? I know that. It's just, even the best games, not everyone's going to love them. I understand that. And so if you wanted to like Starfield and there were some things that just didn't do it for you, maybe give it another try. Maybe wait till Shattered Spaces. If you just didn't like it and you don't think you ever will, then leave it alone. Don't ever touch it again. And don't talk about it all the time. No one needs to hear that. We get it at this point. And if you liked it, but maybe you dropped off like I did, it's probably worth coming back and maybe even starting a new playthrough. I'm really excited about Shattered Spaces. I suspect we'll find out more about that here in a couple weeks during the Xbox showcase. And to prevent myself from going on for another 20 minutes, I am going to wrap it up. So let me know what you thought about Starfield. If you've played the update, what you think about the changes they've made, what other things you would like to see them change maybe in the future. Leave that down in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the like button so more people see it. If you want to support my stuff even more, please consider becoming a YouTube member. You get early access to videos like this one, and you get a cool little logo beside your name when you comment, and any other, I don't know. Tell me if you want other stuff as well. I'll try. I have a couple podcasts. You can check those out right here on this YouTube channel. And I do stream over on Twitch as Bond Diesel. So go over there, follow that, give me your Twitch, your Amazon Prime sub if you want. That would be really super cool. That is all I have for this one. So until next time.